A lovely Monday evening, and it's always a delight to come your way at this time of the day on the program Governance and Development Conversation, proudly brought to you by African Network for Environment and Economic Justice with the support from the European Union and the International IDEA. Today's program promises to be very, very exciting and interesting against the background of the mood and the state. And by the way, I'm Sonny Duke Okosi, your host on the program. Today, let's set the foundation for this conversation. The African Network for Environment and Economic Justice, ANEJ, has called for stronger accountability, improved governance systems, and accelerated delivery of campaign promises following the public presentation of the OKPEBHOLOMETER first-year assessment report conducted by Advocacy Foundation under the Promise Tracker NG framework. Delivering the keynote address as special guest of honor, ANEJ Executive Director Reverend David Ogolo commended the initiative as a powerful citizen-led accountability tool, but raised concerns over gaps revealed in the performance of the Edo State government during its first year in office. The OKPEBHOLOMETER independently tracked 27 campaign promises made by Governor Monday Okpebholo across 6 priority sectors: economy and jobs, healthcare, justice and security, infrastructure, education, governance, and political reforms, using government records, budgets, documents, media monitoring, and field verification across the state. The results submitted shows mixed results from the first year performance. 14.8% promises kept, 40.7% not yet started. According to the assessment, 4 promises, that's amounting to 14.8%, have been fully kept. 10 promises, 37%, are in progress. 11 promises, 40.7%, have not been started. 2 promises, 7.4%, were classified as broken. Now, this data gives us insight into the impact made in the first year of the state government. And as part of the ANEJ program's efforts directed towards transparency and accountability in government, today on the program, we'll be engaging and interrogating these data just to help you make sense of what was promised and what has been kept and what is still in the works. In today's program, I'm joined by civil society activists. I'd like to begin with the president of the Conference of Non-Governmental Organizations. I'd like to welcome Comrade Dr. Bartholomew Okodu. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We also have with us here the Assistant Programs Officer of Advocacy Foundation, one of the NGOs that carried out this measurement, gathering this data that we're going to interrogate in the next few minutes. I'd like to thank very especially Nelson Otabo. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, sir. It's a delight to be here.
Okay, you were part and parcel of the OKPEBHOLOMETER as something that you worked on comprehensively to get to this point. Let's look at the figures that are out there. These are very interesting figures. So how long what was the basis? Let's start from the basics. What was the basics for this, adventure?
Okay, so the basis for this adventure was because you wanted to actually look at accountability and transparency in Edo States. So that was the reason why Advocacy Foundation decided to actually look at how far the government has actually done. So Advocacy Foundation is a civic tech organization that promotes good governance, transparency, and accountability in Nigeria, and we do this through tech, art, and entertainment. So one of our flagship initiatives is what we call Promise Tracker. So Promise Tracker, we use Promise Tracker in actually tracking the promises of elected government officials across the different states. So as part of actually cascading down, we came to Edo State to actually track the promises of government, Governor Monday Okpebholo. So during our tracking, we actually tracked 27 promises. And how did we actually arrive at these 27 promises? We actually arrived at these 27 promises through data collection, verification, and timeline. So the whole essence of this was because we wanted to ensure that politicians don't just make promises by making promises. We wanted to ensure that politicians make promises and they see those promises as bonds between the people and them. So just like the way they say, government is a social contract, according to John Locke. So we wanted the politicians to know that once you're making promises during campaign, it should not just be a cash phrase for voting or for voters to actually vote for. It should be a bond between you and the people, and it's between you and the people, so that when you come into office, people can actually hold you accountable by such promises. So in all of this, we wanted to actually ensure transparency and accountability in Edo State.
All right, Dr. Kodu, let me come to you now. This data that is coming forth from this field work and the analysis that has been given, they were formally presented over the weekend. I had a lot of civil society activity. How would you describe the extracts from this data?
Thank you very much. The extract from the data and from the information given, one was purely non-partisan. There was no partisan sentiment about it. There was no mention of name to say, oh, this one was done to please the government of the day. This one was done to displease the outgoing government. There was no such.
So it was devoid of sentiment.
Political sentiment.
Okay.
And then no government officials was involved, except those they went to confirm some certain information. It was not sponsored by any government, any political party, any individual. It was selfless, sponsored with support from another youth organization. So you discover that being purely partisan, it does not attack anybody. It does not praise anybody. It just gives you the facts and figure the way they are.
Okay.
For instance, if you see those two promises that were not kept, the construction of Ebomisi Secondary School, which the governor himself promised that barely 2 months in office, he will complete that school. That school have not been kept.
Okay.
That school have not, construction work have not started in that school. That is a promise failed, not fulfilled.
Yeah.
Then you look at the appointment of 30% of women in his cabinet. Today we have 27 commissioners, 1 year to be appointed. Of these 27 commissioners, we have just 3 women, which makes it about 9% of women in the cabinet. That also is a promise failed.
Okay.
Then there are areas where the data score the governor very high.
Yeah.
For instance, to create job, he has, as of today, he has employed over 5,000 teachers and other categories of civil servants. That is promise kept. He has given soft loan to women, 1 billion soft loan. There were evidences of women that actually got this loan.
Okay.
They went to Oba Market for verification. Not only Oba Market, other market across Edo State. They went there for verification. And the women testified that we got this soft loan.
Okay.
So these are the area where we appraise the OKPEBHOLOMETER device.
Yeah.
So it is devoid of no political interest. It is not meant to attack any individual. It is meant, they were able to track 27 campaign promises of the governor, and in his first 1 year, they are able to track what has been done and what has not been done. So this information, when they eventually pass it to the governor, it will help him to do a self-assessment and reappraisal of his performance. That will tell him where he is at the moment and what he still needs to do. So I laud their efforts.
Okay. Nelson, essentially, this OKPEBHOLOMETER report is to help to put government on their toes so they can not only match words with action, but also look at where they are coming from, where they are, and where they are going. Could you speak to those data? I saw, first off, is a mixed result or a mixed report in the sense that you have a percentage of promises not kept. You also have a percentage of promises kept. We may just look at those data one more time just to help us make sense of these analysis that we are given from the report put together. Okay, we have mixed result actually. 14.8% promises kept. And then you have 40.7% not yet started. All right, and then according to the assessment, 4 promises, that's about 14.8%, have been fully kept. Then 10 promises, 37% are in progress. 11 promises, that's about 40.7%, have not been started at all. And then you have 2 promises, 7.4%, were classified as broken. That's what you talked about a while ago.
Yeah.
Okay, but let me get you to speak to some of these data.
Okay, thank you very much. Like I said before, so the OKPEBHOLOMETER project is a digital tool that we use in actually collating and evaluating promises made by Governor Monday OKPEBHOLO. And so far, we tracked 27 promises. And how did we arrive at these 27 promises? We actually did this through data collection, verification, and timeline. So we had to go to several miles in Edo State to actually collect data. For verification, for every promises that we have in our digital tool, we ensure that those promises were actually backed by media reports. So they were not just mere words that were said anywhere. It was actually said by the governor, and there was a media report to it. Yeah. Then there's also timelines attached to it. For instance, the Ebomsi Secondary School, where the governor said he was going to actually rebuild the school within 2 months of assumption into office. So that's the timeline attaching to the promise. So far, we have 27 promises. So when you go to our website, we actually rated these promises in various ways.
Okay.
We rated them by not yet rated, in the works, broken, compromised, and kept. So so far, the governor has done so well. We will not take that away from him, but we also want to let him know that there are other things that he has promised Edo people that we want him to actually achieve, or we want him to actually fulfill. So that is the essence of this OKPEBHOLOMETER project, because we want to ensure that we want to see that the governor actually fulfilled these promises and the people are actually happy. So talking about data, so currently we have about 11 promises not yet rated. That is, nothing has started in that particular promise. Government has not given attention.
Were they made on the grounds that they will be completed within the first year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were actually.
So all the 27 projects from which you gathered your data, the promises were made against the background of a timeline of 1 year.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. So this is how it is. So one of the promises under the not yet rated is the revitalization of the water fountain at Ring Road. So if you go to Ring Road now, you see that nothing has started regarding that water fountain. So that is one of the promises under not rated. That promises have not received government attention. In the works, we have the promises where the governor said that he was going to actually build the Ute Palace Road. When we did our verification and did what we had to do, we saw that promise is actually in the works. So we noticed that the governor was actually doing something in that particular area, but it has not actually finished construction activities there. Then we also look at promises broken. So we have 2 promises that are broken: that of the Ebomsi Secondary School and that of the giving 35% of cabinet slots.
Out of the 27 promises that you were able to track,
yes,
2 were broken.
2 were broken. So 2 were broken and 4 were kept.
Okay.
For the 4 that were kept is the revitalization of the Edo line, the appointment of 5,000 teachers, the provision of soft loans to Edo women, and the building of Eweka Primary School at Obazagbon and Uyoba Primary School at Uzebu Quarters.
Okay.
So those are the 4 promises that have been kept. For the promises that are broken, that I would like to speak categorically to the Ebomsi Secondary School. For the Ebomsi Secondary School, when we did our verification, field verification, we noticed that when we went to the school in August, we saw that the governor has not started doing anything regarding the school. So we called the governor out. We made a reminder to the governor, and when we went in September, we noticed that construction activities are started in the school. But before that September, we noticed that from the community that students that were staying in that particular school, that were learning in that particular environment, we had to be transferred from that deplorable condition of that particular school to a nearby primary school.
Okay.
So just imagine that a secondary school student had to leave his own building to a primary school building. Yeah. So now that promises is actually in the works. The governor is actually building that school.
Okay. According
to persons that we met, they said that school actually built within 3 months. But I want to let the governor know that timeline is very, very much important. Okay. If you say you are going to build that school within 2 months, and after 8 months, we notice that nothing has actually started. But with our intervention, we notice that, okay, you started doing something regarding it. Even though that school is completed today, that school cannot be moved to kept promises. It can only be moved to compromise. Why will it be moved to compromise? Because the governor did not actually fulfill the promises within the time frame of 2 months. Yeah. Then going to the 35% cabinet slot that he said he was going to give to women, we all know the importance of women in our society today. Yeah. In fact, when you talk about female representation in Africa, Rwanda has the highest female representation in Africa. Okay. So we want Nigeria, we want states in Nigeria to actually go in go at the same level with other African countries like Rwanda, like other countries outside Africa countries, other countries outside Africa are doing in terms of female representation.
Yeah.
So currently now we track the number of women in the governor's cabinet. I will notice that out of 27, 3 women were actually are actually in the cabinet, which is far away from, is a far cry
from
the
the
35% is actually promised.
Okay.
Yeah. So we want more women to be in the cabinet. So that 3 women actually represented 11% and given a shortfall of about 21%. So the governor has to do something regarding it. Therefore, in the worst promises, we want the governor to actually fast track those promises, because for every promises that you delay, it actually goes a long way in affecting the lives of the people that are affected by, or that those promises are actually targeted at. Okay. Yeah. The same thing goes for the not yet rated. Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, Dr. Okodu, let me get your take in terms of the import of this data that we are seeing. If a promise is made and then within the time frame that promise ought to be kept, that promise is not being kept, and then it's not being rated, even if eventually the promise is kept, it's not being rated as a kept promise. Are we factoring in that in life generally, there could be some circumstances or situations that may make certain promises not to be kept? And if we're not putting those factors in, which are sometimes beyond human capacity or human comprehension, are we being fair to the maker of the promise? Let me put it that way.
Yes, there are room for human factors making it impossible for
promises to be kept.
Not to be kept.
Yes.
And those factors, they could also be financial factors. No enough fund to actually keep those promises. A lot of the environment might not be friendly to keep those promises. But what the governor ought to do, haven't made that promise, and there are factors that made him not to be able to fulfill that promise. The honors would have lied on him to come back and tell the people that yes, I made this promise and I have it in mind, but for so and so reason, I am not able to do it, execute as promised.
Yes.
Then the people will now become aware that the governor has not forgotten them. They are not fully aware that the governor has not forgotten them. If it's an issue the people on their own can help alleviate, then they will step in.
Okay.
They will step in to say, okay, yes, governor, for you to be able to do this, maybe the governor has promised to build a health center in a particular place, and there is no land. The people can make land available, and there is community clash in that land, in that community. The people can resolve themselves. As a governor, for the sake of these things, we have resolved ourselves. Come and do it. So it lies on the governor to go back and let the people know why. If the governor have done that, it will not be classified as a failed promise. But to just keep the people without information, that is what the device projected that promises as a failed promise.
All right. If you just join us, it's still governance and development conversation, and it's reaching you on independent television. And remember, the program is proudly brought to you by African Network for Environment and Economic Justice with the support from the European Union and International IDEA. Today on the program, we're looking at OKPEBHOLOMETER first year report, which is a tech device which helps to track promises made and then interface that with promises kept. And from the report, which of course is a mixed report, it shows that 4 promises actually have been fully kept. And from the course of our program, if you followed us from the beginning, you heard from Nelson and of course from Dr. Okodu, the promises that have been kept. And that amounted to about 14.8%. 10 promises constituting 37% are in progress. 11 promises, 40.7%, have not even started at all. And then 2 promises were broken. They were classified as broken. When we return, we'll be looking at promises that have not even started at all, about 11 of them. But just to say that some positive steps have been taken in terms of teachers that have been employed. Maybe we can see that story now in just a moment. 5,000 teachers recruited. We've also seen the revitalization of Edo Line, the 1 billion naira women's soft loan scheme, and then of course ongoing infrastructure works like the Ramat Park flyover bridge and all of that. But the interesting thing is that in all of this, there is low female representation, which amounts to about 19%. against the 25% target, which Nelson talked about a while ago. Now, interestingly, Nigeria's poverty and governance context deepens, and that requires urgent attention. And if you look at some of the findings, Nigeria's worsening poverty and governance indicators are not really encouraging. According to the World Bank data, over 30% of Nigerians still live in extreme poverty, with rural poverty rates rising to 75%, while Edo State records 35.4% multidimensional poverty, representing 1.4 million people deprived across health, education, and living standards. That's why data and statistics of this nature that is important, because it helps government to see where they are, if what they are doing is working well, and perhaps to re-strategize to make it better so it can impact more on the people. Don't forget, this program, Governance and Development Conversation, is specially designed to bring accountability and transparency to government and to governors, to ensure that the people have value for those that have elected into position of authority. Every week we have one issue or the other to look at, and I'm sure you've enjoyed the program so far. We'll take a short break and we'll be back on the concluding side of the show. Don't go away. Governance and Development Conversation, proudly brought to you by African Network for Environment and Economic Justice, ANEJ, with the support from the EU and IDEA. Showing on this station every Monday at 5:30 p.m. West African time. Thanks again for rejoining us on the program Governance and Development Conversation. My guest on set, live here in the studio, Comrade Dr. Bartholomew Kodu. Thank you again, the President of Congo's Conference of Non-Governmental Organization, Edo State. Thank you for joining us. And then we'll have the team lead of OKPEBHOLOMETER of the Advocacy Foundation. I'd like to thank the Assistant Programs Officer, Nelson Otabo. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Now, as we quickly conclude the program, let's talk about the 11 promises where nothing has started at all. And they also talk about the promises that are ongoing in terms of impact, quickly.
Okay, so for the promises, so like I said before, we have 11 promises not yet rooted, and we have 10 promises that are actually in the works. For the 11 promises that are not yet rooted, by not rooted, we mean the government has not actually started giving any attention to it. So one of them is the Adowa cattle and Kara market. Okay. The government promised those persons, that the traders there, that it was going to remodernize that market. Till now, nothing has been done. If you go to that market, when it rains, that market is a mess. Okay. If you go, then the next one is that it was going to pave the roads at Uwelu and Ewekes Peppers Market. Uwelu, if you go to Uwelu Market, before you will finish leaving that Uwelu Market, you see a very big dish at the center of the road. That is one of the promises that the governor said he was going to actually fulfill for the people in that particular community. Okay. Till now, nothing has been done. Then if you go to Ewekes Peppers Market, that road is, when you compare it with that of the Uwelu Market, it is very deplorable.
And you have several of them like that.
Yes, we have several of them.
We can talk about the ongoing. So the ongoing. There are about 10 of them altogether, yes, making 37%.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you look at the in the works promises, we have the Aochigara Ebilo road. The governor has actually started, has flagged off that road, but up to now nothing has actually started. But we noticed in terms of flag off, yes, we noticed because of the flag off, we can rate it as in the works, okay, or ongoing. Okay. But construction activities has not started. It's just only 3 bulldozer machines that are actually stationed on the road. If you go there, you can actually see it. You get the Ute Palace Road is also there. The Udomi Onewa Road, that's the road that leads to his own community.
Yeah, I've not heard you mention the flyover bridge and all of that. These are ongoing projects.
Yes, these are.
Does this constitute
I was going to actually come there.
The promises that are in progress?
Yes, the flyover bridge is also one of our in the works promises. Those, the governor actually promised us that he was going to promise Edo people that he was going to actually fulfill that promises or finish building that project within 18 months. After a while, that timeline was reduced to 12 months. So we are hoping that they can actually build that bridge within the time frame. Okay. And we also noticed that the governor has actually started making way for another bridge at Adesua. So those are certain promises. These are in the works promises that we are looking at, and we are actually acknowledging the governor. But want the governor to actually not just say it, ensure that he actually fast-track the completion of these promises.
All right, let me get your final take, because we're almost running up now, Dr. Kodu. I mean, this report is scientific-based, yeah, and is data-driven. data don't lie. Is there more to it than meet the eye?
Yes, thank you very much. Now, this data as presented, I want to say it has no political motive. It has no political motive. It is not meant to praise the governor or to tell the governor you have failed. It is only meant to put the governor on his toes. By this report, the governor knows what he has done, what he has not done, and what he needs to do.
Okay.
So it's a kind of assessment tool for the governor to be able to assess himself and move forward.
All right, thank you very much. But our time is up, gentlemen. I mean, if we have more time, probably love to talk more about this. I mean, I always love data. I mean, data can help you make sense of anything. But just to also let you know that next week we'll be having a government official here to speak to this data. There could be one or two reasons why some of these projects that we're seeing, especially the ones that have not started at all, they are the way they are. And that will give us more insight into this OKPEBHOLOMETER first year report put together by Advocacy Foundation. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I want to say big thanks to Anij for sponsoring this program, and of course the European Union and the International IDEA making it possible for us to bring you this program every other day on a weekly basis. I'm Sonny Jikokosno, thanking you for staying with us. Have a beautiful evening. Bye for now.